This is a Sports Catastrophe production.
Hey there, hello there, Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to a special Sports Catastrophe video being made on the NCAA, on the return of the NCAA. Now you'd be thinking to yourself, hang on, how does this Canuck, and I don't mind that term because it is a proper term for a Canadian, how does this Canuck even care about NCAA football and all that? Canadians are not really good at NCAA football. Well, that's not completely true. I mean, there have been some Canadian NFLers, and obviously they had to come from the NCAA. So there. So anyway, so my love affair with the NCAA football, in a sense, it started innocently enough in 1997. I was 11 years old. And it was New Year's Day. Now, New Year's Day usually didn't bring a lot of great TV shows, probably just reruns of old stuff and, New Year celebrations. But on CTV in Kitchener, well, CTV Kitchener, which was the local station for me, being from Platts, Ontario, but CTV would broadcast, with the fact that it was a holiday, they didn't have to broadcast news on New Year's Day. So they decided to broadcast the Rose Bowl. And for many years, CTV would host the Rose Bowl. And I would know that, watching TV as a child, as a teenager, that Channel 13 would have the Rose Bowl on New Year's Day. For many years that had happened. But then TSN took it away, and I was pissed. But then again, that was, yeah. The 97 Rose Bowl was my first foray into college football. Probably I would have learned something beforehand. But anyway, it was the Rose Bowl that saw Ohio State and Arizona State tangle, and Ohio State win the game on a last second touchdown by Joe Germain to deny Jake Plummer the Rose Bowl title. I wouldn't remember the ending because I only stayed up till 9 o'clock or something like that. So yeah, so the Rose Bowl started when my brother was still living at home. Like he had his room. I would watch Channel 13 in his room and watch the Rose Bowl and be enamored with college football. It was such to the point that in my gap year between high school and college in 2003, I would seek out and watch as much college football as I can on my in the living room on my parents' cable box. Notably, of course, I was not allowed to watch sport like cable sports when my bub was around. So I would basically sneak around and watch college football. Normally, I would do it on Saturdays, knowing and it, on days that my dad and my mom were out of the house, so I would watch college football and all that. It got to the point that before I left for Kitchener, I managed to buy a college football magazine. I remember seeing it in one of the variety stores by the McDonald's in New Hamburg, and I would basically save up enough money and then buy the magazine and then get all the college football teams and I would make stats and all that. That would be true because something else I'll tell you later. Anyway, so in an hour we watching college football. I watched as much college football as I could on Saturdays during my college years. Like, watching games live. Shocked when USC took a Notre Dame in the Bush push on Liner. Reggie Bush instantly pushed Liner into the end zone. That was kind of a weird play, and they called it legal. I was pissed off. However, the one thing I was really pissed off about was how people basically gave USC a lot of credence and all that. I remember watching my first Rose Bowl in years. No, no. I remember watching the Capital One Bowl, or the Citrus Bowl as it's called, the bowl before the Rose Bowl happened in 2005, Iowa, because my cousin Gregory went to Iowa Medical School, and I would have a affinity for the Iowa Hawkeyes. I remember watching Drew Tate's last second touchdown to Holloway and Gary Thorne making the call and all that, and it was like shocking that they scored a last-second touchdown like that. So anyway, that's what happened. So sorry about that. Probably someone trying to call saying, "Stop watching college football. Fuck you." Anyway, so I remember watching the Rose Bowl in 2006, the great Rose Bowl between USC and Texas, and I remember telling people, I'm going to go with Texas. I kind of hate USC and all that. Someone has to lose. And I know USC had this 39 game or whatever winning streak, but Texas took them out. I know Texas didn't see it, but I always kind of had a thing for the underdog. And Vince Young scoring the touchdown was amazing and all that. The winning touchdown. So yeah, I watched a lot of college football games and all that. I remember watching, I think there was a lot of bowl games on one day, and then the next day I had to go do a accounting exam for school, even though it was in January because it was rescheduled for some dumb reason. So regardless, yeah. Yeah, so NCAA football I've been enamored with for many years and all that. Of course, I follow my school, Arkansas, which is kind of strange being it's a deep south school and I'm from north of the border. But yeah, I loved Arkansas. Ever since the 94 basketball run. That was the first basketball NCAA March Madness I remember watching as a kid. So anyway, yeah, that was amazing. And yeah, I watch NCAA football when I can now. Now the problem is my setup is kind of wonky. That now my computer is hooked up to my TV and not a computer monitor. That I can't really watch college football and do stuff on my computer at the same time without running up a cable bill, a massive internet bill. Because I found out that when I try to watch stuff on the internet, it actually adds up to my usage. So I'm trying to cut back and all that. And uploading stuff does that anyway. So anyhow, yeah. But yeah, I like NCAA football. But there's one main reason why I gotta be an NCAA football fan. It's for my tournaments. Now, of course, everyone knows on my YouTube page, Cutter Historical, that for many years I have done NCAA football tournaments, even in the PlayStation 3 era, when I had a PS3 before it crashed, leaving me with my PS2 still. Good thing I never sold it. Huh. So anyway, what happens is I would painstakingly try retro rosters. Well, not like the 1970 Texas Longhorns retro, but like who legendary NFL players who played in college and who were good college football players. So Texas, for example, would have Bobby Lane as a quarterback, also Vince Young and Colt McCoy, I think. I don't know. But anyway, I would combine eras and all that. Earl Campbell was on the team. I don't know many other Texas guys. I think I put Candace Sims on in that team. But anyway, yeah, I would painstakingly use knowledge. I have a college football encyclopedia. I know, granted, that there hasn't been one made since 2011, which pisses me right off. But basically, for my retro stuff, it's easy because then I tried my best. Now, what I did was I tried not to have have like current players who could be shifted to Madden 11 because when I do my dynasty mode, I've got to do gotta make sure the two players weren't the same people. I would probably have to edit their names or something like that. But anyway, whatever. So what I would do is go through each and every school that was in the encyclopedia. Like they said, the 70 greatest programs and all that. So basically, I go that, find out who would be a good college football name and all that. Obviously, with me having a few college football books and me also picking up stuff online like a sponge sometimes, I would get the team. So every year I do like a best of the best tournament, 64 teams. And basically what I would do is I would base it on their real life counterparts. So for example, last year, well not last year, because of the COVID, 2019 was a thing. So what I do is I pull up my Avalon Sports College Football Preview, which somehow I can manage to purchase in Canada. Thank goodness for that. And what I would do is make sure check off each team's thing. If they, I know each team has 12 games. So what I would do is I would add a 13th game by simulating schools on NCAA Football 11 for the PS2. So what would happen is that the schools could get a score hot. If they win, then that adds on to their mark. They need 7 wins, real egg fake or just real, to qualify for the tournament. So I go 64, 32, 16, blah, blah, blah. What I would do, of course, is randomly give them seeds and all that based on their real life counterparts, not about their historical context and all that. But I still am learning about college football history. I'm still learning about star quarterbacks and where they went to school and putting them on the rosters and all that. There are times that I have to put players on different schools than they were. Like if Alabama or Texas had the quarterback had, I tried to go 3 quarterbacks per team, like legendary players per team, like 3 per position. Well, kickers and punters are a different breed. So what would happen is if that didn't happen, then I would randomly pick a team, like a school like UNLV or Eastern Michigan and all that, and put them on those teams so that at least those guys could actually be kind of there. And of course, let's not forget about Dynasty Mode in NCAA Football 11. And I would play those ones, and then the players who would go to the draft would be imported as a class in Madden 11, and then through Madden 11 I could have those guys come in as rookies and all that. Of course, it's going to be a little bit tough to do all that when I do Dynasty Mode because those players have played in the 2012 season. But I mean, it does make sense if you played college football in like 2011 forward, you couldn't really be in Madden 11 unless you make him a rookie. But am I digress? College football has been really good to me, and I really love watching it. Just plunking myself, watching the bowl games. Maybe I'll get some chips and make cutter style nachos. I'm not telling you what my secret is about those nachos. That's between me and me. So anyway, yeah, I just wanted to give you guys a look about college football and how Arkansas, being an Arkansas fan past like 5 years has been all just terrible and everything. Arkansas got to a few lower bowl games in the past, but they've just stunk. And they're not projected to do well. They might get 6 wins and be bowl eligible, well, in real life. But, still, I shake my head. But you know what? Arkansas's got a legendary team. Joe Ferguson was a great quarterback for that team. Clint Stoerner, Matt Jones. Running backs. Man, we had Felix Jones, Peyton Hillis, and Darren McFadden on the same Arkansas roster. And they all were pretty good. Peyton went downhill. Felix Jones was a decent journeyman. And Darren McFadden was great for a while. Wide receivers, not that much. But we had the great Bambi, a.k.a. Lance Allworth, who was a star with the Chargers back in the AFL days. He went to Arkansas. Billy Ray Smith, as linebacker. Brandon Burlsworth, who was a good offensive lineman with the Drew Carey glasses, but he died just days before he was drafted. To be drafted in the NFL draft, which was pathetic. Yeah, but anyway. Billy Ray Smith, who else? Ken Hatfield, Jimmy Johnson I put on that team because Jimmy Johnson, the great coach, went to Arkansas alongside Jerry Jones. Jimmy Johnson was part of the 64 team that won the AP National Championship, but not the full National Championship, but it still counts in Arkansas. And then you got yourself Steve Atwater, a great defensive back. And of course, Steve Little, kicker. But for me with Arkansas is that, there's great Arkansas moments, college football wise. One of the greatest moments in Arkansas history was 1978 in the Orange Bowl. They were taking on Oklahoma, who was always a tough opponent. Now, in 1977, college football had a problem because there were 5 teams that were aiming for the national title, and they all seemed to lose, thus giving Notre Dame the national title. So Arkansas was not really ranked that high. Oklahoma was number 2, and when Texas went down to Notre Dame in the Cotton Bowl, Oklahoma had the best chance to get the national title. So they thought. However, Arkansas crushed them 31-6. Now the funny thing about that Orange Bowl game in 1978 was that Arkansas lost 3 key players. Two due to a suspension because of a dorm incident, and 1 just walked away. Arkansas didn't really have their best offensive players, but they still won the game 31-6, which shocked me a lot. And guess who the coach was for Arkansas? The great Lou Holtz, who used to coach Arkansas for 5 years? I liked it. And then he left Arkansas. No, he came to Arkansas from the New York Jets, and then he moved on to Minnesota and all that, pissing me off. If I was born and an Arkansas fan at that time. But to be one of the greatest Arkansas moments of all time, 2007, final week of the regular season, Arkansas takes on the number 1 team, LSU. Now, 2007 was a shocking year for college football because of the fact that, all those upsets and all that. It all started with App State beating Michigan on the first week of the season. But anyway, Arkansas faced LSU. LSU had 1 loss. They were the number 1 seed, but they lost in triple overtime to Kentucky. Ohio State had 1 loss, shockingly losing on home turf to Illinois and Juice Williams. I think I put him on Illinois. I hope I did. So anyway, Illinois, baby. Yeah. So Arkansas shocks LSU in triple overtime, knocking LSU out of the title race, or so we thought. And then shockingly, LSU would play Ohio State for the national title. And everyone's like, what the heck is going on? People bitch about how West Virginia got ruined of a chance to play for a national title. 2007 was a harsh year for college football. If I were you, I would look at either CFB Timelines video about the 2007 season, which I downloaded, or KTO doing something about the craziest college football season ever in 2007. A fun fact about the 2007 season was that my buddy Bill Lang actually went to see Michigan in their second game of the year against Oregon. The game that Dennis Dixon did the fake Statue of Liberty and then did a Statue of Liberty play. A lot of people said Oregon should have been the number 1 team if Dennis Dixon didn't get hurt. I believe that. So anyway, yeah, this is my love about NCAA football and all that. From video games to real life to historical context. Hey, you have to be an NCAA player to be in the NFL. So it just makes the connection. Kind of like college basketball into the NBA right now. Although there are players who go to Europe and all that. It ticks me off. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. Ado.